Hello and welcome. The President's agriculture revolution takes root with the unveiling of the rice pyramids. CBN Governor raises hope, says it's a remarkable feat that may crash the price of rice across the country. National Assembly resumes. Speaker indicates reps may reintroduce adjusted Electoral Act Amendment Bill on Wednesday and resend to the President for his assent. All Progressives Congress finally announces February 26th as dates for the party's national convention. And Kenyan human rights group outraged over recovery of 20 bodies from the River Yala in the Rift Valley province of Kenya. Plus, we have international news from our London studio.
On business news tonight, Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries maintains a confident outlook as it expects strong demand for crude in 2022.
On sports news tonight, Senegal and Guinea advance to the round of 16 following the final round of matches in Group B, while the Black Stars of Ghana bow out at the AFCON tournament.
And from Abuja, lawyers to proscribed indigenous people of Biafra leader Nnamdi Kanu ask for time to study the amended 15-count charge brought against their client. Court yields to their request, adjourns to Wednesday for continuation of proceedings.
It appears the days of the pyramids are returning with the launch of the Federal Capital Territory Mega Rice Pyramids by the President in Abuja today. The 1 million paddy rice stacked in 15 separate pyramids were planted and harvested from states across the country under the Central Bank of Nigeria Anchor Borrowers Program and the Rice Farmers Association of Nigeria. In his address, President Muhammadu Buhari said that the sky-high pyramids are part of his administration's commitment to achieving food security in the country. Our State House correspondent Gloria Umezoke reports.
The national anthem, please.
President Muhammadu Buhari joins state governors, captains of industry, traditional leaders, security chiefs, as well as the Rice Farmers Association at the Abuja International Trade Fair for the historic unveiling of the FCT Mega Rice Pyramids.
Many commendation, Your Excellency.
Under the Central Bank of Nigeria Anchor Borrowers Program, the Rice Farmers Association facilitated the construction of 1 million bags of rice paddy, which are stacked to form these 15 pyramids. This, according to the President, will engender economic diversification and reduce rice imports.
Our gathering here today is no doubt a testament to the fact that the Anchor Borrowers Program is working. I am aware that the bags of paddy will be moving straight from here to rice milling plants across Nigeria, which will lead to the release of processed rice to the markets by the rice millers. The measure will aid our efforts at reducing the price of rice in Nigeria.
The governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, Mr. Godwin Emefiele, and the Rice Farmers Association of Nigeria affirm that the Anchor Borrowers Program has undoubtedly built a sustainable framework for financing smallholder farmers in the country.
We're delighted that these efforts have yielded fruit in not just increasing the availability of rice, but also in moderating prices, reducing imports, and increasing job creation in our country. For example, Thailand alone exported 1.3 million tons of rice to Nigeria in 2014. The Anchor Borrowers Program was launched by Your Excellency in Kebbi in 2015 to curtail these imports, and since then, we have seen incremental reduction in rice imports from Thailand. As at the end of 2021, they only exported 2,160 metric tons of rice to Nigeria, thereby saving Nigeria foreign exchange and helping to preserve jobs for our people.
Despite all the insecurity, the banditry, the flood, the kidnap, the drought, They became committed, and that is why you can see all these pyramids here.
The unveiling of the mega rice pyramids is expected to further spur production in other states.
I want to assure you, Mr. President, that the job is not done. We shall not relent until the availability of rice as a staple food is also at the most affordable rate for ordinary Nigerians. That's the next agenda in this campaign.
The president also conducted an inspection of the already processed Nigerian rice. The CBN Anchor Borrowers program has so far enabled a 95% reduction of Nigeria's annual rice import bill from $1.5 billion in 2015 to $18.5 million.
Mr. President, along with his delegation.
Now, aside improving on the national output of rice production beyond 9 million metric tons, the CBN Anchor Borrowers program is looking to do more, unveiling the first and inaugural rice pyramid in the South, South and Southeast, and also looking to unveil the maize pyramid by the Maize Association of Nigeria later in the year. From the International Trade Fair Center here in Abuja, Gloria Umezuke, Channels Television News.
Today's unveiling of the rice pyramids brings to mind similar images that dotted the northern landscape in the distant past. Our correspondent Abubakar Salihu gives us a historical background of the days of the groundnut pyramids.
The famous groundnut pyramids were invented by a prominent merchant, Alhassan Dantata, who came to Kano in 1919 and within 5 years became one of the most successful businessmen, supplying the British Royal Niger Company with most of its groundnut needs. Dantata's company kept their groundnuts at a facility in Kofa, Nasarawa, within the ancient city of Kano, and they stacked them in bags in the shape of pyramids before they were shipped. From the 1910s, pyramid-like structures made from groundnut sacks were built in settlements like Kano, Malam Madori, and Bebeji. From the late 1950s, these places experienced a boom in groundnut production, which eventually became the country's most valuable single export crop. In the 1960s and 70s, these pyramids reached their peak as people could find rows of such huge structures, sometimes holding as much as 15,000 full bags at collection fields. The city of Kano and other areas in the north were then witnessing a boost in economic and commercial activities. However, in the early 1970s, groundnut production in northern Nigeria began to witness a decline, majorly because of drought, general neglect of agriculture because of the oil boom, lack of organized inputs and marketing, and dissolution of groundnut marketing boards. The total groundnut production up to 1973 was more than 1.6 million metric tons, which came down to less than 0.7 million metric tons in the mid-80s. That ancient pyramid is resurfacing in Abuja as the federal government, working with the Rice Farmers Association, stacked 1 million bags of rice paddy in pyramid style. Hopefully, this form of storage will lead to a revolution in the nation's agriculture sector.
Let's take another look at today's unveiling of the rice pyramids. Joining me live from Abuja is a professor of agricultural engineering and director, University of Maiduguri Consultancy Services, Professor Adamu Zivama. Thanks a lot for joining us on the News at 10.
Thank you very much.
Now, we've seen the pyramids up there, but storage obviously will be critical for a scheme like this. Did you hear anything today while you were following? Did you hear anything that would overcome that sort of challenge, storage?
Well, it's with nostalgia that we saw the pyramid. Those of us that grew up in the 1960s saw these pyramids in Kanu. So seeing this in today is a very good development. It's a very good effort. And we hope, this thing can be sustained. Because the policy behind this Anchor Borrowers program, where loans are given to small-scale farmers, creating enabling environment for farmers to produce rice, closure of the border and all that. That was, I think these are the policies that give the boost for this rice production. And I think the government has to go further than that. We have to put something on ground that will be sustainable. Can we sustain this Uncle Boros program, the kind of the policy of giving loan to the farmers? How long can we continue to do that? How long do we expect these farmers can repay back? Is there any abuses in the program, in the process of giving out this loan? How do we ensure that these farmers repay this loan? How do you ensure that the prices of the rice, is such that the farmers can recoup and pay back the loan? So there are many processes that have to put in place if you really want to sustain the rice production. It's not just about only about giving out loan. It's not about stacking grain in pyramids and all that. Government has to go further than that. Even worrisome is the fact that the rice production is still at the, peasantry level. We still have using our hoes and all that to do the land preparation. We use indiscriminate use of herbicide chemicals, to control weeds and insects. We still have very unmechanized harvesting of the rice and processing. So you still have to go a long way in putting something on ground that can sustain this production. What do we do to mechanize the rice production, for example, the land preparation, the soil type, and all that?
Okay,
so
Prof,
government has to look at that, even bringing back, yes.
Yes, apologies, Prof, if I may. Yes, you've spoken about production and the various aspects of what needs to be done to sustain it. But let's look at another area, the CBN talking about its participation in the scheme, and that the whole intention is, part of the intention is to crash the price of rice. How best do you think that can be achieved and attained as well?
That is a double-edged sword. If you say you want to crash the price of rice, to what level do you crash the price of rice? Because the price has to be such that the farmers will also be able to gain something out of it. So if you calculate the cost of inputs, the land preparation, the labor cost, the seeds, the chemicals, and all that, so how do you crash the price vis-a-vis the price of the imported rice? And the farmers, don't forget, the farmers have to go to the market. And, you are not taking your rice, the farmers do not take the rice for export. You still have to sell it in local currency. And most of those things that come into the market is still being imported, and, the price has to escalate. So there has to be a balance between the cost of production and the selling price, and then you have to now start talking about crashing the price of the rice. Are you going to subsidize inputs? Are you going to subsidize this land preparation? Are you going to provide extension services to ensure that the farmers follow through? So there are so many things that have to put in place for you to start talking about crashing the price of rice. That's why you find that if you calculate the cost of inputs vis-a-vis the imported rice, where they are highly subsidized, you may find that if you allow free flow, the imported rice will still be cheaper compared if you are going to put all the inputs the farmers have to go through it. So there are a lot of things the CBN, the policymakers has to put in place to ensure that you don't crash the price below what the farmers put in, and then you discourage the farmers from production. Because if you don't guarantee them price, also it will discourage them from production. So it's a two-edged sword. You have to balance all that.
All right, Professor of Agricultural Engineering and Director, University of Maiduguri Consultancy Services, Professor Adamu Zivama. Thanks a lot for joining us on the News at 10 tonight.
Okay. Thank you very much. All right.
In part 2, after the break, National Assembly resumes, may reintroduce adjusted Electoral Act Amendment Bill to the President for his assent. That's in a moment. So join us again. If you've just joined us, you're watching the news at 10 on Channels Television, coming to you live from Lagos. A reminder of our top stories. President Muhammadu Buhari's agricultural revolution takes root with the unveiling of the rice pyramids. CBN governor raises hope, says it's a remarkable feat that may crash the price of rice across the country. National Assembly resumes. Speaker indicates reps may reintroduce Electoral Act bill adjustment on Wednesday and will send to the President for his assent. All Progressives Congress finally announces February 26th as dates for the party's national convention slated for Abuja. And Kenyan human rights group outraged over recovery of 20 bodies from the River Yala in the Rift Valley province of Kenya. The President of the Senate, Ahmed Lawan, says that the President has not directed anyone in his administration to implement the removal of petroleum subsidy. Senator Lawan said this after a meeting with the President in his office, where he conveyed the concerns of his constituents on various issues, including the proposed removal of subsidy. After the meeting, the Senate President told State House correspondents that the lawmakers are worried about the agitations on the matter.
Many citizens were so concerned, our constituents across the country are very concerned that the federal government will remove the petroleum subsidy. And for us as parliamentarians, as legislators representing the people of Nigeria, this must be of interest to us. And we've just finished our recess. We had gone home to our constituencies and senatorial districts, and we felt the pulse of our people. And I found it necessary to visit Mr. President as the leader of our government and our leader in the country to discuss this particular issue of concern to Nigerians. And I'm happy to inform Nigerians that Mr. President never told anyone that the petroleum subsidy should be removed.
And the Niger State Governor, Ahmadu Bello, was also at the presidential villa to meet with the president, where he called for massive recruitment of security personnel to the state to scale up security. He's concerned over the practice where communities still pay terrorist levies for protection in the state.
We still have some communities where ransoms are being collected. We will try to discourage them from paying such ransoms, because even when they do pay ransoms, it doesn't stop bandits from attacking them again. Actually, what it does, it empowers them. When you pay levies to bandits, they use such monies to go and purchase weapons, and they come back and attack you. I can understand if when you pay levy, they will never come back, but they still come back. So we try to speak to those communities to please desist from paying such levies. Anytime you deploy military to a distressed place, they have informants telling the bandits that troops are on their way. So by the time, most times when the troops get there, they don't see anyone. So they're very elusive. We're dealing with a different kind of threat. But like I said, now that this entire state has been dominated by both military, air force, and police, I am very optimistic in the next 2 weeks we'll get some relief.
And while the Niger State Governor was in Abuja, the State Police Command confirmed the killing of 3 police personnel and 2 vigilante members in a fierce gun battle with armed bandits in Kwana Dutse, Mariga local government area of the state. If you say the National Assembly has heeded the call for speedy action on the Electoral Act Amendment Bill, you may not be wrong, as the lawmakers are set to commence the amendment of the provision of direct primaries in the bill. The Speaker of the House of Representatives, Femi Gbajabiamila, made this known at the resumption of legislative proceedings at the National Assembly today. He, however, pointed out that the version of the bill in circulation is not the same version sent to the president, explaining that a technical team has been assigned to investigate the matter. Our correspondent Terry Ikumi reports.
It's the first plenary session in the National Assembly for the year, as lawmakers resume from the Christmas and New Year holidays. Attention is on Parliament to find out their final response to President Buhari's refusal to sign the Electoral Act Amendment Bill into law. When President Buhari wrote to the National Assembly in December 2021, explaining the reason for withholding assent to the bill, lawmakers in the House of Representatives were undecided on the next line of action. The news was, however, received with a stronger reaction in the upper chamber, as senators collated names to override the president.
We had the power to override him. That was what Section 58, 4 and 5 said. So if the Constitution gives us the provision to do so, we use our powers to do it.
However, both chambers decided to wait until resumption in 2022 to make a decision. And while the National Assembly was on break, debates raged in the public space on the need for the National Assembly to either override the president or amend the direct primaries option and quickly return it to the president for assent. On resumption of legislative activities, the House of Representatives sets a date for consideration of the Electoral Act Amendment Bill, thereby expunging any possibility of overriding the president.
I remain convinced that the proposal for direct primary elections is valuable for building accountability in our political system. But we must not allow the perfect to be the enemy of the good. Therefore, the House will reintroduce the amendment tomorrow, and we will work quickly to address the mitigating concerns, pass the bill, and send it back to His Excellency President Muhammadu Buhari for assent.
The Speaker also raises concern over the drafting and technical errors in the bill pointed out by the President.
This is a matter of concern, as it appears the version sent to the President differs from what is circulating in the public domain. However, in December of last year, I appointed a technical team to look into the issue. I expect to have their report within the next day or two.
The Senate, however, does not set any concrete timeline for the consideration of the bill.
Like we all know, the Senate and indeed the National Assembly worked so hard on the bill. Having consulted, the Senate will expeditiously look into the issue.
The country looks forward to a quick conclusion of the issues standing against the passage of the Electoral Act Amendment Bill and the eventual signing of the bill into law well ahead of the 2023 general elections. Terry Ikumi, Channels Television News.
We'll stay in Abuja. And here's Linda Akigbe. Linda?
Hello, Ijoma. Now, staying with politics, the controversy over the date for the All Progressives Congress National Convention may have now been resolved after the party's leadership announced that the exercise is scheduled for Saturday, February 26th. This was disclosed by the chairman of the Caretaker Extraordinary Convention Planning Committee, Mr. Maibala Muni, who stated that the party is counting on the support of women to hold a successful convention. He was speaking at the National Progressive Women Conference holding at the International Conference Center in Abuja. Our correspondent Kayla Megwa reports.
For the next 2 days, the International Conference Center in Abuja will be hosting the women of the All Progressives Congress, drawn from all over the country for their National Progressive Women Congress. The main hall of the International Conference Center is packed to the rafters as these women adorning different colors representing their zones get ready for the APC's journey into 2023. Sing a song for women everywhere, equality, development and peace. The National Caretaker Chairman of the All Progressives Congress chose to use this event to make a long-awaited announcement from the party, an official date for his National Congress.
We look forward to having more women contesting in the forthcoming National Convention of the party come February 26, 2022.
The wife of President Muhammadu Buhari calls out the state governors on the promise of 35% affirmative action for women.
We need more women in decision-making bodies from local government, state up to federal level. And the governors are here, the ball is in their hands. I think if we did not get 35 affirmative action that we desired or that we are entitled to, we need to hold the governors responsible.
In her keynote address, the Vice President of Liberia urges the All Progressives Congress to ensure women make the core of their winning strategy.
Those spaces that women occupy are normally second tier. What it means is that they are not in the driver's seat. Some of us that are across this hall, and I've met some brilliant, trained, capable women who could be considered, can be in the driver's seat to make sure Nigeria begins the new trajectory.
The women of the All Progressives Congress have spoken. They are done with being supporters and mobilizing votes. They want actual political power and are standing on the need for 35% affirmative action, calling on the governors to ensure that this happens. Now, with the announcement from the APC caretaker chairman today that the convention will be holding on the 26th of February, he's asking for the support of all women in this regard to ensure that they have a very successful convention. Kayla Megwa, Channels Television News.
To legal matters, the trial of the proscribed leader of the indigenous people of Biafra, Nnamdi Kanu, has been stalled following his counsel's objection to the amended 15-count charge against Kanu and is requesting for time to study the charges. The lead counsel to Kanu, Chief Mike Ozekome, a senior advocate of Nigeria, complains that the federal government failed to promptly serve him the fresh 15-count amended charge it brought before the Federal High Court on Monday. Following Kanu's objection, the court adjourned further proceedings in the case till Wednesday, January 19th, 2022. Correspondent Emperor Simon reports.
Security operatives manning a checkpoint some meters away from the Federal High Court, Abuja, hours before the arraignment of the leader of the proscribed indigenous people of Biafra, IPOB, Mr. Nnamdi Kanu. They are also manning the gate of the court and scrutinizing those accredited before being granted access. Only a few journalists are admitted. Inside the courtroom, the legal teams are seated, waiting for the business of the day. There is, however, an addition to the defense team, with Chief Mike Ozekome, a senior advocate of Nigeria, now leading the defense.
How are you? Morning.
At exactly 9:50 a.m., the IPOB leader, Mr. Nnamdi Kanu, is brought into the courtroom by security operatives. He exchanges pleasantries with his legal team and then his family members before the proceedings commenced. The federal government had filed fresh terrorism charges against Mr. Nnamdi Kanu on Monday, increasing the initial 7 counts against him to 15. But Mr. Kanu, through his new lead counsel, Chief Mike Ozekome's son, alleges that the federal government had breached the principle of fair hearing with the way and manner the new charge was brought, and that he cannot proceed to take plea in the charges, as he prayed the court to adjourn the arraignment to enable him study and prepare for defense as required by the law. The prosecution counsel, Mr. Labaran Magaji, did not object to the request, and Justice Binta Anyako adjourned to Wednesday, January the 19th, 2022. She also ordered that Mr. Kanu and his lawyers be allowed to interface in the courtroom before taking him to the custody of the Department of State Services, and that he should be allowed to change his clothes. Outside the courtroom, both the prosecution and defense counsels speak to journalists on the development.
Law requires that charges can be amended and filed, even on the eve of the judgment of any case. So the mere refusal to take the plea today is one of the several antics employed by the defendant to delay this case.
We were served some minutes to 10 a.m. yesterday a 15-count amended charge for a case coming up today, whereas the last date of adjournment was 2nd of December. So they had well over 1.5 months to have done that and served us. They didn't. So I believe that was intended to frustrate today's proceedings.
Mr. Nnamdi Kanu is facing trial on charges bordering on alleged treasonable felony and terrorism. Emperor Simon, Channels Television News.
As the trial of Nnamdi Kanu went on at the Federal High Court, pro- and anti-IPOB protest hit part of the nation's capital. While the anti-Kanu protesters condemned the activities of IPOB, the pro-Kanu protesters chanted songs of solidarity, calling Mr. Kanu their savior.
Dozens of protesters gather in front of the Federal High Court, Abuja, where the leader of the indigenous people of Biafra, IPOB, Nnamdi Kanu, is being tried for alleged terrorism charges. The protesters display placards with inscriptions condemning secessionist agitations and chanting songs for a united Nigeria. They're also asking for the speedy trial of the IPOB leader, Nnamdi Kanu.
So we are here to tell the whole world that the unity of Nigeria is not even at all negotiable. So nobody should threaten anybody's peace. You can see the crowd. We are all Nigerians from all corners of Nigeria.
God has brought Nigerians together and nobody can divide Nigeria. Nigeria is for us and we are for Nigeria. And we are using this opportunity to call on the President of Nigeria to make sure they're speeding the judgment of Nnamdi Kanu because we are tired.
Just a few meters away, another set of protesters, a pro-Nnamdi Kanu group, chant solidarity songs, calling the IPOB leader their savior. The pro-Kanu protesters insist it is within the rights of the IPOB leader to agitate for the independence of the southeast from the Nigerian state.
For somebody to demand for the freedom of his people is never a crime. And in Nigeria law, it's never a crime in Nigeria law. With what is happening today, shows that Nigeria doesn't care for Igbo.
What I'm telling you is that if they want us to be one Nigeria and not in this condition, we are going. We believe no more. I don't belong to Nigeria again. I'm a Biafran.
The heavy security presence and barricade prevented a possible clash between the two groups of protesters. The pro- and anti-Nnamdi Kanu protest has become a regular sight at the Federal High Court, Abuja. And for members of both parties, this protest will continue every other day that the court sits until judgment is delivered on the matter.
And staying with the judiciary, but this time in Lagos, the Special Offences Court sitting in Ikeja has granted bail to an internet celebrity, Ismaila Mustafa, popularly known as Momfa, in a sum of 200 million naira with two sureties in like sum. Justice Modishola Dada, who granted the bail application of a defendant, also ordered that one of the sureties must own property valued at 100 million naira within the jurisdiction of the court. The court also ordered the defendant to return his international passport to the custody of the court, while ordering his remand in any correctional center of his choice in Lagos, pending the perfection of the bail conditions. Last Wednesday, the EFCC had arraigned Momfa alongside his firm, Ismalob Global Investment Limited, for an alleged money laundering to the tune of over 6 billion naira. Momfa pleaded not guilty to all the counts. Meanwhile, a former Attorney General and Commissioner for Justice in Lagos State, Mr. Olashukbo Shashore, is being grilled by operatives of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC. A competent source disclosed that the senior advocate of Nigeria, who arrived at the headquarters of EFCC in the afternoon today, is being quizzed over his role in the process and industrial development matter. The federal government and PNID are locked in a legal dispute over a gas supply and processing agreement signed by PNID with the Ministry of Petroleum Resources, which the Nigerian government claims was a scam. And that's all from Abuja. Back to you, Ijoma.
Thanks a lot, Linda. The Vice President, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, has described the late former Premier of the Northern Nigeria, Sir Ahmadu Bello, as a man that stood for national unity and was worth emulating. The Vice President was speaking today in Kano at this year's edition of the Ahmadu Bello Memorial Lecture with the theme, Law and Policy on the Role of the Northern Traditional Institution in the Peace and Security Framework.
peace and brotherhood with everyone.
Before settling down for that event, the Vice President paid a condolence visit to the family of an illustrious son of the city, Naif Hassan, who passed on a week ago. At the lecture proper, the Vice President described the late Premier of Northern Nigeria as a man of great influence and a unifier. The Vice President said he is worth emulating as he had worked hard in his lifetime in inculcating love irrespective of religion or tribe.
Such an extensive impact, spanning every facet of human development and life, lies at the core of Sardauna's enduring presence in our collective memory. That and the excellent personal attributes of the Sardauna that to this day resonate in the minds of those privileged to have known him in person, and those of us, and many who are here, students of his life and work. His love for the Talakawa, his humility, his punctuality, his generous disposition to all.
Professor Shibajo also touched on the theme of the event, noting that traditional rulers are at the forefront in helping fight the insecurity issues bedeviling the country.
The President has on numerous occasions reiterated the view that our peace and security architecture must recognize that traditional institutions are our first line of defense against the forces of anarchy.
Governor Umar Ganduje described the former Premier of Northern Nigeria as an icon who rendered selfless service for the unity of the country.
We were informed and learned about his passion for a united North and Nigeria, where everyone is at liberty to exercise his or her human rights, such as that of religion and thought with passion, and interact with fellow countrymen as true brothers and sisters, as well as to carry out his or her legitimate life pursuit without let or hindrance.
A very prolific writer from Nasarawa State.
The lecture series is organized by the Sir Ahmadu Bello Memorial Foundation, with this year's memorial lecture focusing on leadership and good governance to help tackle insecurity, particularly in the northern region.
It was all commendation, prizes and recognition at the 52nd convocation ceremony of the University of Lagos, with graduates of the faculties of Education, Social Sciences, Arts, Environmental Sciences and Sciences receiving their awards. And for the Pro-Chancellor and Chairman of the University Governing Council, the convocation is a landmark event which showcased an array of students with excellent academic performances. Our correspondent Olumide Macaulay reports.
The University of Lagos, one of the most reputable tertiary institutions in Africa. It's that time of the year when the graduates don the ceremonial garb, pose for pictures, and get their honors. To the arrival of the solemn procession in the hall, leading the senior officials of the university. Before the Vice-Chancellor, Professor Oluwatoyin Ogundipe, sets the tone.
Nothing gives me a great pleasure and joy than my meeting with some physical challenged students in their hostels a few months ago. As I was interacting with the blind student, one of them said, "I wish I can see you."
The Pro-Chancellor of the University of Lagos, Dr. Larinwaju Tejo-Osho, takes the stage to shed some light.
Our main objective is to consolidate on the achievements of the university and open new frontiers for greater impact. We have since initiated ideas aimed at achieving deepening collaboration and meant to support the university administration. We are committed to making the University of Lagos become first among equals and indeed a truly 21st century world-class university.
The graduates begin receiving their laurels. 274 students earned distinctions, first-class degrees. 144 are male. 128 are female. From the females, the overall best graduating student and best graduating students in science emerged. 21-year-old Elizabeth Ekeose with a grade of 4.95, just 5 points shy of a perfect score. The president of the University of Lagos Alumni Association, Dr. John Momo, congratulates and welcomes the graduates and new members.
Great Ecokites! Today, as you fully take your pride of place in the annals of great Ecokites in the country who are found in every sphere of influence in our nation, I urge you to step out and make your mark in whatever career field you choose.
Some of the graduates shared their joy.
I thank God I'm able to witness this day. But we faced a lot of challenges, but at the end of the day, I won, and I think that's all that matters.
I feel very, very happy, very great, and I really just want to thank God. I prayed, yes, and I worked very hard. I thank God for it.
Happy faces, smiles, and celebrations is the order of the day as the graduates have their degrees, their diplomas, and their awards conferred on them. For some, the cycle of learning for formal education will continue, but for others, it is complete. Reporting from the University of Lagos, Olumide Macaulay, Channels Television News.
Congratulations to them all. From there, we take a look at some business news. Here's Teniola Shobowale.
Thanks a lot, Ijoma. Welcome to Business News. The Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries says it expects strong demand for crude oil this year amid monetary policy tightening. The oil cartel made this known in its monthly oil market report for January 2022. Crude prices climbed to their highest level today since October 2014, despite rising Omicron cases and supply concerns. International benchmark Brent crude futures rose 1.3% to $87.63 a barrel, while U.S. West Texas Intermediate futures jumped more than 2% to hit $85.57. Meanwhile, forecasts for global oil demand and supply for 2022 was kept largely unchanged from last month's report. The president of the Cocoa Farmers Association of Nigeria, Mr. Adeola Adegoke, has been speaking on the need for the government to support the sector with a view to improve its production capacity, which currently stands at 250,000 metric tons. Speaking with reporters after a meeting in Abuja, Mr. Adegoke identifies incentives such as funding and the provision of farm inputs for small-scale farmers in the cocoa subsector as critical in changing the narrative.
If the smallholders farmers are not financially, sound, they will not be able to use the right inputs that will increase the yield, that will make the quality beans to be produced. And that is what we are having in Nigeria. But look at what we are talking about in Ivory Coast and Ghana, where smallholders are being given $400 per ton, to encourage them. That is not happening in Nigeria. So if that happens, they will be able to plow back that kind of incentive. So this incentive has to be brought to Nigeria for smallholder farmers because they are the largest. They are the largest cocoa producers in Nigeria.
The equities market made a U-turn today into positive territory as the all-share index rose by more than 0.5%. Ini John Mekwa tells us more.
Well, thank you so much. Welcome to the stock market report. There was a rebound at the NGX today, moving from the negative territory yesterday all the way to more than 0.5% gain today, with the all-share index still over 44,000 level. The market more than recouped yesterday's losses as the total market value gained more than 138 billion naira. And you know the ball goes where the money goes. Well, let's see details of the gain. Banking recoiled from yesterday's losing and became the toast of the day with almost 1% gain. GT Co, which lost 5 kobo yesterday, gained 35 kobo on its share price today to close at 25 naira 50 kobo, while ETI gained 30 kobo. Oil and gas was also a major contributor, which its counter up 0.25%, and thanks to investors' interest in Cornell, which traded 418,000 units and had 65 kobo added to its share price to close at 21 naira 95 kobo. Bull Food had recorded its first decline in share price yesterday. It had its facts behind figures today on the floor of the NGX. Perhaps that drove the 2 naira 50 kobo gain on its share price. A combination of that and a good outing by Dangote Sugar, which added 1 naira 25 kobo to its share price, sustained the bullish sentiment on the consumer goods counter. It was up 0.69%. Top trade looks very similar to that of yesterday. Transcorp was there yesterday, is also today. GT Co as well. Well, Jay's Bank joined today. Well, I guess we can call it a good trading day. What will tomorrow bring? We'll let the investors decide. That's a stock market report. I'm Ini John Mekwa.
And that's business news tonight. It's back to Ijeoma for the rest of the news at 10.
Thanks a lot, Teniola. Kenyan activist Boniface Mwangi says he and human rights organization Haki Africa have counted more than 20 decomposing bodies at Yala Hospital mortuary. The bodies were recovered from River Yala, which flows into Lake Victoria. They were found in sacks with some tied up and others damaged, signifying that the victims had gone through torture. Here's Simon Pusey with more international news in Around the World in 5.
Good evening and welcome to the Channel Studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. Tonga says it has been hit by an unprecedented disaster with all of the houses destroyed on one of its islands in the government's first update since a volcanic eruption triggered a tsunami. The government confirmed at least 3 deaths, 2 locals and a British national. Aid efforts have been hampered by ash falling from the volcano. Before and after photos from above the island show the change since the eruption. It was so big that shockwaves were felt around the world. Hear the noise heard from Lakeba in Fiji. Peru's environment minister said an oil spill occurred while a ship was supplying a refinery affecting at least 2 kilometers of the country's central coast. New Zealand has sent a Navy ship carrying personnel, equipment and supplies, with another due to leave for the islands shortly. Australia and China are also sending emergency items. Tonga's government said the internet was down, but some local phone services were available and work was underway to restore full communications. Mass murderer Anders Behring Breivik gave a Nazi salute at a parole hearing that will decide if he should be released after spending more than a decade behind bars. He walked into the court carrying signs printed in English, including one that said, "Stop your genocide against our white nations," and Nazi civil war. He then raised his right arm in a Nazi salute to signal his far-right ideology. Addressing the judge, Breivik described himself as a parliamentary candidate. The far-right extremist is serving Norway's maximum prison sentence of 21 years after he killed 77 people in Norway's worst peacetime atrocity. In July 2011, the anti-Muslim neo-Nazi killed 8 with a car bomb in Oslo and then gunned down 69, most of them teenagers, at a Labour Party youth camp. At least 20 dead bodies have been retrieved from a river in western Kenya in recent weeks. That's according to a human rights group. Haki Africa said most of the bodies recovered from River Yala, which flows into Lake Victoria, were found in sacks, some of them tied up. Locals say the bodies were dumped into the river at night by unidentified people. Guinea's deposed president Alpha Condé has flown to the UAE for medical treatment. The 83-year-old, who has been under house arrest since he was ousted in a coup more than 4 months ago, was accompanied by his doctor and 2 bodyguards. Last month, the junta said the ex-president would be allowed to travel on medical grounds, but could not remain abroad for more than a month. North Korea's state-run television station has aired new photographs of what it describes as a tactical guided missile fired the day before. The North's Academy of Defense Science conducted a test of tactical guided missiles from the country's west and precisely hit an island target off the east coast, KRT reported without elaborating. South Korea's military said that North Korea launched 2 short-range ballistic missiles from an airport in its capital, Pyongyang. A winter snowstorm creeping up the east coast of the United States into Canada is expected to dump more than 2 feet of snow in some areas. Planes have been grounded and motorists stranded. In Hidden Valley, Pennsylvania, some residents reported that they are now under more than a foot of snow. Nearly 90,000 homes and businesses between Georgia and Maine have lost electricity. Tennis Australia say it deeply regrets the impact the Novak Djokovic deportation saga had on players at the Open. The tournament organisers acknowledged there were lessons to learn. World number 1 Djokovic, who has not had a COVID-19 vaccine, was deported from Australia on Sunday after losing a last-ditch court bid to stay. Tennis Australia said it respected the court's decision and hoped the focus could now switch to the tennis court. And finally, 43 giant turtles have been released into the wild in the Galapagos Islands. After almost 8 years of being looked after, the turtles from the Cheleondinus gunethri species were airlifted via helicopter to their new habitat near the Sierra Negra volcano. It's home to 4 giant turtle populations. And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the Channel studios in Lagos.
Thanks a lot, Simon. We return briefly to politics, where the chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission, Professor Mahmood Yakubu, has met with political parties in Abuja, the nation's capital. During the meeting, Professor Yakubu told them that the 2023 general elections are 396 days away and that all critical preparations concerning the elections must be concluded this year. According to him, the continuous voter registration, which commenced in June last year, has entered the 3rd quarter with a total of 8,260,076 eligible Nigerians completing the online registration. For some sports, here's Ayotunde Balogun.
Many thanks, Ijoma. The Teranga Lions of Senegal were held to a goalless draw by Minnows Malawi, despite the return of stars Edouard Mendy, Kalidou Koulibaly and Idrissa Gueye, but still finished top of their group at the African Nations Cup earlier today. On an evening of surprises, Guinea fell to already eliminated Zimbabwe in Yaoundé, but scraped into the round of 16 as runners-up thanks to a better head-to-head record than Malawi. A 4-time champions Ghana were eliminated from the AFCON after crashing 3-2 to Minnows Comoros in Group C. Morocco finished top of their group following a 2-2 draw against Gabon as both teams advanced to the round of 16. Super Eagles interim head coach Augustin Aguavoin says the team will double their efforts against Guinea-Bissau despite securing a spot in the round of 16 at the ongoing African Nations Cup. Now, the 3-time African champions are unbeaten in Group D with victories against Egypt and Sudan.
Teams are playing good football, so that is why we have to double our effort. There are no secrets anymore. Everything is out there for an opponent to study. So as well, we can also study, and we have been studied as well. And like I said earlier on, we're going to approach this game with all seriousness, with respect as well.
Well, ahead of Egypt's 3rd game against Sudan, the Pharaohs coach Carlos Queiroz says the 7-time champions are mentally ready for the game. A win or draw will see the Pharaohs advance to the knockout stage of the tournament. And that sports news is back to you, Joma, for the wrap.
Thanks a lot, Ayotunde. And the main news again. President Muhammadu Buhari today unveiled the Rice Pyramids, an initiative that kickstarts the federal government's agriculture revolution, just as the CBN governor said the feat may crash the price of rice across the country. And that's the news at 10 tonight. Thanks so much for staying with us. I'm Ijoma Bunyato. Do have a good night.